Elias Ward had seen many strange things in his life as a human envoy, but nothing had prepared him for the alien world of Violia. From the moment his shuttle touched down on the glossy, reflective surface of the alien city, he felt like he had entered a different universe. The sky above shimmered in colors he could not name, and the air was filled with soft whispers, almost musical, yet full of purpose. The alien race, the Trellari, were taller than any human he had ever seen. Their bodies glimmered faintly, with translucent skin revealing subtle patterns beneath, like light moving underwater. Their eyes were large and calm, reflecting wisdom and centuries of knowledge. Elias had come as a representative of Earth to establish a trade alliance and share scientific knowledge. Humans were a small part of the galactic community, still new and fragile in the eyes of older civilizations. The Trellari, however, had a different view of humans. They called it a selection cycle, a process they followed every generation to understand a new species' true nature. And according to their rules, a human had been chosen. That human was Elias. The selection did not come with explanations first. Elias was led to a large chamber, vast and circular, with walls that seemed alive, pulsing gently with light. The floor was smooth, reflecting his own image and the images of the Trellari observers who floated silently above the ground. It was not frightening, at least not in the way he expected. It was awe-inspiring. But there was tension in the air, an unspoken weight that pressed on him. A Trellari elder approached. Her form was taller than most, and her voice resonated in a way that made him feel the sound deep in his chest. "Elias Ward," she said, "you have been selected for our cycle. It is not a test of violence, nor of intelligence, but of endurance and trust. You must understand, refusal is not dishonored, but it may disrupt the balance." Elias nodded, though he did not fully understand. "I am willing to participate," he said carefully. "I want to understand your culture and prove that humans can be trusted." The elder inclined her head, her translucent skin showing a soft pulse of approval. "Then you will begin. The ritual requires you to shed your armor and clothing, not for indulgence but to reveal your essence, your vulnerability and choice." Elias froze for a moment. Humans had long struggled with the idea of vulnerability. Their species had survived countless disasters because they could adapt, hide weaknesses, and still act decisively. Yet here, he was asked to remove all protection and stand exposed in front of an alien race that was far more physically capable than humans. But Elias understood something vital. The Trellari were not asking him to perform a private act. They were asking him to show courage and composure. They would measure humanity by the mind, not the body. He took a deep breath, recalling his training. As an envoy, he had studied countless cultures, human and alien alike. He had faced hostile delegations, manipulated by fear, anger, or pride. But this was different. This was an evaluation of his inner self. Slowly, he began to remove his gear, starting with the heavy protective vest that had shielded him through previous space journeys. The Trellari watched silently, their eyes reflecting patterns of light like liquid crystal. His clothing was removed piece by piece until he stood in a simple underlayer, feeling every inch of his vulnerability. It was uncomfortable but not unbearable. He reminded himself, the Trellari valued restraint, not panic. When the ritual began, the chamber's light shifted, and the air seemed to vibrate with energy. Elias felt a subtle heat, almost like standing too close to a fire. But it was not heat that threatened him, it was the test itself. The Trellari were observing how he reacted under their controlled environment. The smell of alien pheromones, the soft currents of their energy, the pressure of expectation. They were testing whether a human could endure and maintain composure. Many species failed this test. They panicked, struggled, or simply could not tolerate the exposure. Elias focused on breathing, grounding himself in the rhythm of his heart. He imagined himself not as a single human but as the collective strength of his species, resourceful, resilient, and unyielding. The Trellari noticed. Their glow shifted subtly, signaling interest, perhaps even admiration. Humans, they realized, were unpredictable. Their survival was not based on size or strength, but on the will to endure and think. Time passed, though Elias could not measure it. Minutes felt like hours, but he did not falter. The Trellari introduced subtle variations, changes in light, temperature, and pressure, to push him further. At one point, he nearly stumbled as a pulse of heat passed over him, designed to unsettle the body. He gritted his teeth, steadied himself, and remained still. The chamber quieted as if acknowledging his mastery of self. Finally, the elder spoke again. Elias Ward, you have endured the initial cycle. Your species' capacity for calm, focus, and adaptation is unexpected. Most outsiders would falter long before now. Elias allowed himself a small sigh of relief, but he did not relax completely. He knew this was only the first stage. I am honored, he said. I did what I could, but I understand the cycle is not over. The Trellari elders nodded. Correct. The next phase will test your decision-making under pressure. You must act to protect not yourself, but another life. You will see soon. Elias felt a shift in the chamber. A platform descended from the ceiling, revealing a small, alien creature, no taller than a human child, but with eyes that radiated intelligence and vulnerability. Its wings fluttered slightly, and it appeared frightened. The Trellari observed silently. Protect it, the elder instructed. Your actions will define how your species is understood. Humans who endure the first phase may still fail here if they cannot act with foresight and empathy. Elias' mind raced. Protecting a fragile life, especially one so unlike him, was a test unlike anything he had faced. Yet his instincts took over. He approached slowly, crouching to ensure he did not scare the creature. Its eyes widened, but it did not flee. He extended a hand, offering calm reassurance. The Trellari studied his every movement, noting the subtle ways he mirrored care and attention. Suddenly, the platform began to tilt, sending the creature sliding toward the edge. Elias reacted instantly, catching it in midair with a single fluid motion. The Trellari chamber pulsed with light in response. It was a signal of approval. Elias had succeeded not because of strength, but because of focus, empathy, and decisiveness. The elder spoke once more, her voice resonant. You have shown qualities rare in the galaxy. Your species relies not on physical dominance but on intellect and heart. The cycle continues tomorrow, and you will face challenges designed to test unity with others, both human and alien. Your actions here have already changed perceptions. Elias allowed himself a small smile. The fear and uncertainty were still there, but so was a quiet pride. He had not only survived, he had proven something essential. Humans could endure, adapt, and protect, even in the most alien circumstances. The Trellari, observers for countless cycles, were beginning to see that humanity was not a fragile newcomer, but a species that could hold its own, even when the odds seemed impossible. As he left the chamber for rest, he could not help but feel anticipation for what was coming. The breeding season, ritual, as the Trellari called it, was not about intimacy, but about survival, trust, and resilience. And though Elias did not yet know all the challenges ahead, he felt a sense of purpose growing within him. Humans were capable of more than the galaxy had expected, and he, as the chosen one, would demonstrate it. The next day, Elias returned to the chamber with a steady heart, though he knew the challenge ahead would be greater. The first cycle had tested his endurance, composure, and ability to remain calm under pressure. Now, the Trellari intended to test his decision-making and adaptability in unpredictable situations. He had learned that in this alien society, nothing was done casually. Every act carried meaning. Even the light in the chamber, the soft vibrations in the air, and the pulsing patterns on the walls were deliberate, designed to provoke thought, reaction, and reflection. As he entered, the chamber seemed transformed. The floor was no longer smooth. It had split into multiple platforms floating at different heights. Above him, beams of light moved like shifting constellations, and the air felt thick, almost alive. From the shadows emerged three Trellari observers, each older and wiser than the last. They had a quiet authority, a presence that made even someone as composed as Elias feel the weight of centuries of judgment. In the center of the chamber was a large, crystalline structure that pulsed softly, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. "You are ready for the second cycle," said the eldest Trellari, her voice resonant and calm. "This phase will challenge your intellect, your foresight, and your ability to protect life while making difficult choices. Remember, humans are fragile but not powerless. How you act will define the place of your species in our galaxy." Before Elias could respond, the floor beneath him shifted. He realized the chamber was designed to simulate crisis. Suddenly, the platform split and moved apart, creating gaps. A soft alarm echoed through the room, a signal that something was in danger. On the far side, a small group of alien creatures, some winged, some limbed, scurried across the floating platforms, their movement uncoordinated and fearful. Elias immediately understood. The Trellari were testing his ability to rescue or protect the creatures under challenging conditions. He took a careful step forward. One misstep could cause him to fall or miss an opportunity to help. The platforms were slippery, and the air itself seemed to push against him, as though the chamber wanted to create obstacles in every possible way. But Elias relied on a human trait that had saved their species countless times: adaptability. He observed the movements of the creatures, gauged the speed and direction of the platforms, and timed his steps carefully. The first creature approached the edge of a platform, its small limbs flailing as it teetered on the brink. Without hesitation, Elias lunged, catching it just before it fell. Its tiny body shivered in his hands and he felt a rush of relief. But there was no time to pause. The second creature was already in trouble and the platforms had begun to move faster, tilting and shifting. Elias adjusted his stance, using careful balance and calculated movements to leap from one floating surface to another, each step precise. The Trellari watched silently, their glow intensifying in response to his actions. As he moved, Elias realized the challenge was not just about strength or agility, but about strategy. He had to anticipate the creature's next steps, read the chamber's subtle signals, and act quickly. One miscalculation could have disastrous consequences. He relied on human ingenuity, a combination of observation, experience, and instinct that no alien species had fully understood. Midway through the exercise, the chamber introduced another variable, a sudden surge of energy that caused one platform to tilt violently. Elias, holding two creatures in his arms, lost balance for a moment. He adjusted by gripping the edge of the platform with one hand and using his legs to stabilize himself, a human technique born from survival training and instinct. The Trellari gasped quietly. Such a display of quick thinking under pressure was rare, even among their most capable members. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, all the creatures were safe on stable platforms. Elias stood panting but composed, looking around at the glowing observers. He had passed the physical portion of the test, but he knew the cycle was more than movement and balance. It was about leadership, empathy, and judgment under uncertainty. The elder approached again, her voice softer now, filled with something akin to approval. "You have demonstrated qualities our records have rarely seen. Physical fragility does not define your species. Courage, intellect, and adaptability do, but the cycle is not yet complete. You must now demonstrate how humans can protect life in a broader sense, through decision, not just action." Elias nodded. He had expected more surprises, and he was ready. The chamber shifted once more, this time revealing a holographic simulation of an alien city under threat. Buildings were crumbling, fires were spreading, and numerous alien lives were at risk. The simulation was realistic enough to trigger a strong emotional response. He realized this was the Trellari's way of testing his ability to prioritize and lead, a quality they valued above mere physical endurance. The simulation presented choices. Rescue the group in immediate danger, or take a calculated risk to prevent a larger disaster that could endanger more lives. Time was limited, and hesitation could result in failure. Elias studied the scene carefully. Unlike many species, humans had a unique ability to weigh risks, anticipate consequences, and take bold but calculated action. He acted decisively. Elias directed attention to the groups in greatest immediate peril, using makeshift tools within the simulation to stabilize structures and guide the creatures to safety. Then he predicted the chain reaction of the spreading fires, creating paths and strategies for the remaining inhabitants to escape. Every decision was deliberate, every movement purposeful. The Trellari observers watched in silence, the glow in their eyes shifting to a brilliant pulse that Elias instinctively recognized as approval. Hours, or maybe minutes, he could not tell, passed before the simulation ended. The chamber returned to its calm state, and the creatures he had rescued earlier appeared again, uninjured, safe, and curious. Elias had not only survived the challenges, but he had solved them in a way that balanced compassion with strategy, something that had rarely been seen in outsiders. The elder spoke once more, her voice resonant, carrying a weight of centuries. Elias Ward, your species demonstrates something extraordinary. You do not rely on brute force. You rely on thought, adaptation, and care. These qualities may seem fragile to some, but they are the foundation of endurance. You have passed the second cycle with distinction. Elias felt a mixture of relief and pride. The challenge had tested not just his body, but his mind and heart. He had survived conditions designed to unsettle the strongest, made decisions under pressure, and protected life in a way the Trellari valued most. Yet he also realized that the cycles had deeper significance. The Trellari were not merely testing individuals, they were evaluating humanity as a species. As he left the chamber for a brief rest, Elias reflected on what he had learned. The galaxy was far larger, stranger, and more complex than humans had imagined. Every species had its rituals, its tests, and its ways of defining strength. The Trellari valued endurance through intellect, empathy, and composure, rather than dominance or aggression. And humanity, fragile as it seemed, was capable of excelling in exactly these qualities. Later, in the quiet of his temporary quarters, Elias prepared mentally for the third cycle. He knew the final test would likely challenge not just his endurance or intellect, but his ability to unite species, build trust, and demonstrate leadership on a galactic scale. The first two cycles had shown him that humans could survive, adapt, and protect life in alien conditions. The final cycle would prove whether humans could influence the galaxy positively, whether they could inspire respect, and whether their species, seemingly weak traits, could be recognized as unique strengths. As night fell on Violia, the city shimmered under alien stars, and Elias felt a deep sense of purpose. He had survived the first challenges, but the greatest test awaited. And he, as the chosen human, would meet it, not as an individual, but as the representative of a species that had endured countless trials on its own planet. Humans had always been underestimated, yet they persisted. And in this chamber, in this moment, they were beginning to prove that endurance, courage, and ingenuity could surpass the expectations of even the oldest civilizations. The Trellari, watching silently from their observation points, began to exchange subtle glows, signaling that the human had passed the test in ways they had not anticipated. Elias had not only survived, He had earned their attention, their respect, and a measure of awe. And in the quiet anticipation of the coming cycles, the galaxy seemed just a little more open to the possibilities of humanity. The second cycle had ended. But for Elias Ward, the adventure, the proving of humanity, was only beginning. Elias Ward awoke to the soft hum of the Virelian city, sunlight filtering through the translucent walls of his quarters. He had passed the first two cycles, surviving the trials of endurance, adaptability, and empathy. But he knew the third cycle, the final challenge, would be the true test. This was not about speed, balance, or even immediate survival. It was about influence, unity, and the capacity to lead under circumstances that could overwhelm any species. As he entered the chamber, it had transformed once again. The space was no longer static or uniform. Floating islands of light hovered in the air, each connected by bridges of energy that seemed solid, yet shimmered like liquid. Above him, holographic constellations shifted continuously, depicting planets, star systems, and alien species. The chamber was alive, a dynamic representation of the galaxy itself. The Trellari elders observed silently, their glows pulsating in rhythm with the chamber's heartbeat. The eldest Trellari spoke first. Elias Ward, the final cycle will evaluate the greatest challenge. Your species' ability to create trust, foster collaboration, and influence outcomes across difference. You are not alone in this test. Others will participate, and their actions will respond to yours. Your success is not measured individually, but by the impact of your decisions on others. Elias studied the room carefully. Dozens of holographic beings appeared across the platforms. Some were alien species he had never encountered, others representations of humans, his own species, projected to simulate cooperation. Each figure moved independently, reacting to the environment and to one another. The chamber simulated threats, environmental hazards, resource scarcity, and conflicts between species. Every choice Elias made would ripple outward, affecting the outcome for countless lives. The first challenge became immediately apparent. A simulated asteroid storm approached one of the islands, threatening the lives of the inhabitants. Elias could move quickly to save the few individuals in immediate danger, but that would leave others exposed to the storm. Alternatively, he could coordinate broader protective measures, but they required time, trust, and the willingness of others to follow guidance. He took a deep breath and began to act. First, he called out to the holographic humans, instructing them to form protective barriers with energy constructs provided by the simulation. Next, he reached out to alien representatives, using gestures and universal symbols he had learned in previous cycles. His tone and composure projected calm authority, and slowly, the various species began to coordinate their actions. The chamber responded dynamically. Bridges of energy shifted to allow safe passage, shields of light formed around endangered islands, and the asteroid fragments were diverted with minimal damage. The Trellari observed in silence, their glow increasing as Elias demonstrated leadership under pressure. He was not acting alone. He was facilitating collaboration, showing that humans could not only endure but inspire unity and cooperation. But the test intensified. The simulation introduced conflict. Two alien species on separate platforms began competing for scarce resources. Without careful guidance, their dispute could escalate into violence, jeopardizing the success of all participants. Elias realized that this was the critical moment. Many species would fight for survival, ignoring the greater good. Humans, he reminded himself, survived by building alliances, negotiating, and prioritizing long-term outcomes over immediate gain. He stepped forward and addressed the disputing species, using gestures and language constructs provided in the simulation. Your survival depends not on conflict but on cooperation. Together, you can endure. Alone, you may not. His words were firm yet calm, and he demonstrated a plan that allowed both sides to share the resources efficiently. Hesitation followed, but gradually, the alien representatives began to trust his guidance. Bridges of energy shifted to connect their platforms, and resources were distributed fairly. Elias felt a surge of relief as the situation stabilized. The Trellari pulsed brighter now, a subtle acknowledgement of success. Elias understood this was more than a test of intelligence or quick thinking. It was a demonstration of human resilience through empathy, strategic thinking, and the ability to unite others in the face of adversity. The final challenge approached. A massive simulation of the Virelian city itself appeared at the center of the chamber, showing holographic citizens trapped in unstable structures. Fires, collapses, and energy surges threatened hundreds of lives. Unlike the previous challenges, there was no clear path to success. He had limited tools, limited time, and a diversity of beings with competing interests. Elias paused, taking in the scale of the test. This was the moment where humans could prove not just survival, but exceptional adaptability and moral decision-making. He quickly assessed the situation, identifying critical areas where intervention was necessary to prevent irreversible damage. He assigned holographic humans to stabilize key structures, instructed alien representatives to create protective energy shields, and coordinated movement paths to ensure the safety of the largest number of lives. As he directed the operation, unforeseen obstacles emerged. One bridge of energy collapsed, forcing him to reroute a group of civilians through a dangerous zone. He remained calm, calculating a safe path while minimizing risk. Another group began panicking, threatening to undo all progress. Elias approached them with steady gestures and clear instructions, modeling calm under pressure. Slowly, order was restored, and the holographic city began to stabilize. Time passed in a blur. The simulation tested every skill Elias had learned: patience, foresight, empathy, and leadership. Finally, the holographic crises subsided. The chamber returned to calm, and the Trellari elders approached him in unison. Their glow pulsed warmly, a sign Elias instinctively recognized as respect. "You have completed the final cycle," the eldest Trellari said. "Your species has endured tests that challenge body, mind, and spirit. You have demonstrated qualities rare among outsiders: adaptability, courage, foresight, and the ability to unite diverse beings toward a common goal. You have not only survived but excelled in every measure." Elias allowed himself a moment to exhale. He felt pride not just for himself but for humanity. They had endured countless disasters on their own planet, survived wars, famine, and isolation, and yet they persisted. The Trellari had observed a species they once considered fragile, and now they saw strength in human ingenuity, empathy, and resilience. The elder continued, her voice soft but firm. "You, Elias Ward, have shown that humans are not merely a young species, vulnerable and weak. They are capable of endurance, creativity, and leadership. Your actions today will influence how your species is regarded throughout the galaxy. They will no longer be seen as fragile newcomers, but as equals, capable of contributing to alliances, resolving conflicts, and surviving challenges greater than any individual life." Elias bowed slightly, feeling the weight of responsibility and the honor of recognition. "Thank you," he said humbly. "I only acted as a human should, working together, protecting life, and learning from every challenge. That is what our species has always done, and we will continue to do so." The Trellari elders exchanged glances, their glow pulsing rhythmically. Then the eldest spoke again. "Your species' qualities have been recorded. From this day forward, humans will be regarded with respect. Your resilience, ingenuity, and empathy will serve as a foundation for collaboration, alliance, and shared knowledge." The galaxy will see that strength does not always come from physical power, but from the mind and heart. Elias felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had not only survived trials designed to test every aspect of his being, but he had also redefined humanity's place in the galaxy. The cycles had been difficult, demanding, and exhausting, yet they had revealed the true nature of his species: adaptable, courageous, empathetic, and capable of inspiring cooperation. As he left the chamber, the Virelian city felt different. He could sense the recognition from the Trellari and other beings he had never met. Humans were no longer outsiders, merely fragile observers in a universe of stronger species. They were participants, valued for qualities that could change outcomes, save lives, and shape civilizations. Later in his quarters, Elias reflected on the journey. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and challenges beyond anything on Earth. He had endured exposure, simulated crises, and moral dilemmas that tested every skill he possessed. And through it all, he had learned a simple truth: humans survive not because they are the strongest, but because they think, adapt, and work together. When the Trellari formally recognized humanity, the message sent across the galaxy was clear. Humans were not just another species. They were innovators, problem solvers, and survivors. They could endure what others could not because of biology, but because of choice, intelligence, and compassion. Elias Ward had completed the cycles, and in doing so had not only secured respect for himself but for all of humanity. The galaxy, once indifferent or skeptical, now looked upon Earth with a new understanding. Humans were capable of greatness, and their potential was limitless. For Elias, the greatest reward was not recognition or honor. It was the knowledge that his species, fragile in form but strong in mind and spirit, had earned its place among the stars. And as he gazed out at the shimmering alien city, he felt a deep, unwavering certainty. Humans would endure, thrive, and inspire, no matter how vast or strange the universe became. The cycles had ended. Humanity had been tested, judged, and elevated. And the stars themselves seemed to acknowledge it, glowing a little brighter, as if the galaxy itself had taken notice of the quiet, indomitable strength of a human heart.